Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Om Namo Shivaya.
Om Shri Arunachala Shiva. Jai Mahadev. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Rama Ki Jai. Sri Ramanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Sri Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namaste. Namaste Atma. Namaste Adam. Nanga. Namaste Nikhil. Alexandra. Namaste Jerome. Namaste Andy. Thank you for joining. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Muji Ki Jai. Anantji Ki Jai. So today, after a long break from reading from the channel, I've got a book that I picked up from the Moody Satsang shop while I was on retreat at Zima, and it's Annamalai Swami's final talks, taken from the last 6 months of his life. There were many, many talks, but these were the only ones that have been recorded and made into a book so far. And very much sum up his pointings, which really come direct from the heart of the beautiful Ramana. This image sits by me every day here. Let me tell you a little about Annamalai Swami by reading the introduction. Annamalai Swami came to Bhagavan in 1928 and spent nearly all of the following 10 years serving him. Initially as his attendant, and subsequently as the supervisor of all the building projects that Sri Ramana Ashram undertook during this period. This makes me think of what's happening for Mudiji and Sangha at the moment at Monte Sahaja, a great period of building going on. Maybe we have our very own Annamalai Swami working there somewhere. The full story of Annamalai Swami and his association with Bhagavan has already been told in his autobiography, Living Bhagavan. Many of the stories that Annamalai Swami alludes to in this book are recorded fully, in context, in his earlier work. And I've actually tried to obtain that book to be able to read that also, but so far it's a little bit difficult to obtain. In 1938, Bhagavan instructed Annamalai Swami in Sri Ramana Ashram, saying that in future he should devote himself to solitary meditation in Palakotu, a community of sadhus that grew up on the western border of Sri Ramana Ashram. Bhagavan even went so far as to say that Annamalai Swami should not visit him in the ashram anymore. However, the harshness of this edict was considerably softened by the fact that Bhagavan came to Palakotu every day and often visited Annamalai Swami in his home, a small house that Bhagavan himself had built, that helped to design. After Bhagavan passed away, put a little more light. After Bhagavan passed away in 1950, Annamalai Swami lived and did sadhana in this house for many years, devoted all his energies to carrying out the spiritual that had been imparted to him. Annamalai had said that his years of constant meditation in the 50s and 60s found to a continuous awareness that in the 1980s, devotees, many of them foreigners, began to Annamalai Swami in order to understand by his teachings. So for more than 30 years lived there in meditation, following his master's guidance. Devotees just started showing up. Some of the dialogues from this period appeared in the final of living by the works of Bhagavan. The visitors to this ashram and the readers who subsequently encountered these teachings in his book were often surprised by the elegant and trenchant way in which Annamalai Swami passed on the teachings that had been given to him by his master. Although he had virtually no formal education, his deep experience of the subject matter enabled him to communicate with rare authority. Unfortunately, very few of these sessions were recorded, so there is little record of the teaching sessions that took place in the 1980s and 1990s. However, in 1995, the year that Annamalai Swami finally passed away at the age of 89, audio recordings were made of the sessions that took place between March and October. This small book is an edited record of what turned out to be the last 6 months of Annamalai Swami's teaching career. Annamalai Swami's teachings were uncompromising, straightforward, rarely deviated from a solid core of advice that he himself had been given by his own Guru. However, they were delivered with a force and a gentleness that was irresistibly attractive. In the last few years of his life, his small room was invariably packed on the afternoons that he dispensed his wisdom. In offering this book to the general public, it is hoped that it will be found to be as useful and stimulating as the earlier collection of teachings. May the blessings of Bhagavan be on this small but valuable teaching record. The book was compiled and edited by David Godman, Ramana's main biographer. And before I start reading transcripts from Annamalai Swami, I just wanted to express the reason I was drawn to this book when I was on it. Because I think maybe on the second day I picked this book up to just read it and sit quietly in the shop. And such peace, just such deep peace came over me just sitting reading these words that there was no way I could walk out without it. And then bringing it home, there was no way I could not share it. So with the kind permission of our beloved Father Ananta, let's begin. Annamalai Swami. Mind is just a shadow. Attempts to catch it and control it are futile. They are just shadows chasing shadows. You can't control or eliminate a shadow by chasing it or putting a shadow hand on it. These are just children's games. Ramatirtha once told a story about a small boy who ran down the street, trying to catch up with the head of his shadow. He never managed, because no matter how fast he ran, the shadow of his head was always a few feet ahead of him. His mother, who was watching him and laughing, called out, "Put your hand on your head." When we followed this instruction, the shadow hand caught up with the shadow head. This was enough to satisfy the boy. For those that don't know, Ramanaya was actually Papaji's uncle. This kind of advice may be enough to keep children happy, but it won't produce satisfactory results in the realm of sadhana and meditation. Don't chase your shadow thoughts and your shadow mind with mind control techniques, because these techniques are also shadows. Instead, go back to the source of the shadow mind and stay there. When you abide in that place, you will be happy, and the desire to go chasing after shadow thoughts will no longer be there. Bhagavan often told the story of a man who tried to get rid of his shadow by burying it in a pit. This man dug a hole and then stood on the edge of it in such a way that his shadow was cast on the bottom. After lining it up in this way, he started putting soil on the shadow in an attempt to bury it. Of course, no matter how much soil he put in the hole, the shadow still remained on top of it. Your mind is a great word, insubstantial shadow that will follow you around wherever you go. Your mind is an insubstantial shadow that will follow you around wherever you go. It's nothing. Attempts to eliminate or control it cannot succeed, while there is still a belief that the mind is real. And that is something that can be controlled by physical or mental activity. So this provokes a question. One of these many Westerners who came and found Annamalai Swami. Questioner. But this shadow mind must still be eliminated by some means. Annamalai Swami. When self-realization happens, mind is no longer there. However, you do not get self-realization by getting rid of the mind. It happens when you understand and know that the mind never existed. It is the recognition of what is real and true, and the abandonment of mistaken ideas about reality and substantiality of this ephemeral shadow that you call the mind. This is why Bhagavan and many other teachers kept bringing up the analogy of the snake and the rope. If you mistake a rope on the ground for a snake, the snake only exists as an idea in your mind. That idea causes you a lot of worry and anxiety, and you may waste a lot of mental energy wondering how to avoid the snake or to kill it. But the fact remains, there is no snake outside your imagination. When you see the rope, the substratum upon which your false idea of a snake is superimposed, the idea that there is a snake and that it is real, instantly vanishes. It is not a real snake that has disappeared. The only thing that has disappeared is the erroneous idea. The substratum upon which the false idea of the mind has been superimposed is the self. The self, the underlying substratum, is not seen. It is hidden by a false, persistent idea. And conversely, when the self is seen, there is no mind. Questioner: but how to give up this false idea that the mind is real? Annamalai Swami: the same way that you give up any wrong idea. You simply stop believing it. As our beloved Father would say, you don't believe your next thought. If this does not happen spontaneously when you hear the truth from a teacher, keep telling yourself, I am not the mind. I am not the mind. There is no mind. There is no mind. Consciousness alone exists. If you have a firm conviction that this is the truth, one day this firm conviction will mature to the point where it becomes your direct experience. Consciousness alone exists. That is to say, whatever exists is consciousness alone. Keep this in mind and don't allow yourself to regard anything else as being real. If you fail and give even a little reality to mind, it will become your own false reality. Once this initial false realization, this false and wrong identification, I am the mind is real, has happened, problems and suffering will follow. Don't be afraid of the mind. It's a false tiger, not a real one. Something that is not real cannot harm you. Fear and anxiety may come to you if you believe that there is a real tiger in the vicinity. Someone may be making tiger noises as a joke to make you afraid. But when he reveals himself, all your fears go, because you suddenly understand that there was never a tiger outside of your imagination. Questioner. One can have a temporary experience of the self, the underlying reality, but then it goes away. Can you offer any guidance on how to stabilize in that state? Annamalai Swami. The lamp that is lit may blow out if the wind is strong. If you want to see it again, you have to relight it. But self is not like this. It is not a flame that can be blown out by the passing winds of thoughts and desires. It is always bright, always shining, always there. If you are not aware of it, it means that you have put a curtain or a veil in front of it that blocks your view. Self does not hide itself behind the curtain. You are the one who puts the curtain. You put it there by believing in ideas that are not true. If the curtain parts, close again, that you are still believing in wrong ideas. If you have eradicated them completely, they will not reappear. While these ideas are covering up the self, you still need to do constant sadhana. So going back to your question, the self does not need to stabilize itself. It is full and complete in itself. The mind can be stabilized or destabilized, but not the self. Question. By constant sadhana, do you mean self-inquiry? Annamalai Swami. Yes. By strength of practice by doing this sadhana, this spell will be removed completely. There will be no further hindrances. You can go to the top of Aranatla, but if you are not alert, if you are not paying attention, you may slip and end up at Isanyama, a Hindu institution at the base of the hill. You have to make an enormous effort to realize the self. It is very easy to stop on the way and fall back into ignorance. At any moment, you can fall back. You have to make a strong, determined effort to remain on the peak when you first reach it. But eventually a time will come when you are fully established in the self. When that happens, you cannot fail. You cannot fall. You have reached your destination, and no further efforts are required. Until that moment comes, constant sadhana is required. Questioner: is it important to have a guru at this stage, this period when constant effort is required? Annamalai Swami: yes. The guru guides you and tells you that what you have done is not enough. If you are filling a bucket with water, you can always add more if there is still space. But when it is completely full to overflowing, it is pointless to add even a single drop. You may think that you have done enough, and you may believe that your bucket is full. But the guru is in a better position to see that there is still space, and that more water needs to be added. Don't rely on your own judgment in this matter. The state you have reached may seem to be complete and final. But if the guru says you need more sadhana, trust him and carry on with your efforts. Bhagavan often used to say, the physical guru is outside, telling you what to do, and pushing you into the self. The inner guru, the self within, simultaneously pulls you towards itself. And I've heard our own Guruji, Muji Baba, repeat these words very often. This is what satsang is for. all those that believe they got there and have left satsang without checking in with their master, we only discussed yesterday in our own sangha. We've received a very good pointing, and our master Ananta tells us, don't leave satsang. Just stay in satsang. When the time comes for us to leave, he'll be sure to tell us. He doesn't need us, he doesn't need followers. No guru needs followers. But we followers, we need our guru. We need our master. Until our inner guru becomes the guru. Annamalai Swami continues. Once you have become established in the inner guru, the self, the distinction between guru and disciple disappears. In that state, you no longer need the help of any guru. You are that, the self. Until the river reaches the ocean, it is obliged to keep on flowing. But when it arrives at the ocean, it becomes ocean, and the flow stops. The water of the river originally came from the ocean. So as it flows, it is merely making its way back to its source. When you meditate or do sadhana, you are flowing back to the source from which you came. After you have reached that source, you discover that everything that exists, world, guru, mind, is one. No differences or distinctions arise there. And Atma is just sharing here in the hangout, so touching. I hope Father will never tell me to stop coming to satsang. And this is bringing tears to our beloved Atma. I agree. Such joy to be in satsang. Such a joy. I feel like even if he were to tell me one day that there was no need to come to satsang, I would come just for the joy of it. Just for the joy of being in satsang with him and with Sangha. It's such a joy. We're so blessed to have discovered satsang. And on YouTube, I can see that Nikhil was saying that some feel that they may have outgrown this. And we're smiling at this. Yes, how can we outgrow this? What has the self got to outgrow? And what can this mind that doesn't even exist outgrow? I thank God every day for having discovered a master. Non-duality is jnana. Duality is samsara. We could also say that non-duality is wisdom. And duality is suffering. It's the world of suffering, thoughts believed in. If you can give up duality, Brahman alone remains. And you know yourself to be that Brahman. But to make this discovery, continuous meditation is required. And dedicate periods of time for this. Don't hold it something when you sit with your eyes closed. This meditation is continuous. Do it while you are eating, cooking, and even talking. It has to be time. In my experience, to meditate, and maybe meditate 4 hours a day in a formal practice, in a formal posture, using very much a system to meditate. I have to say that it would be very easy to say it was a complete waste of time, but it would now. If I did it, it would be. But for the time that it existed in my life, it was the right time. And just like Annamalai Swami, he began with meditations. But somewhere along the line, we become the meditation. Life becomes the meditation. And now, for me, some people ask me to teach meditation, and I say, I can't teach you to meditate because I don't meditate. And yet, there's never a moment in the day when I'm not meditating. This meditation is life. Anything I did made that some typical life became meditation. And even now, while I'm talking, while I'm reading, while I'm setting up a hangout or a broadcast or giving seva, that meditation, that resting as awareness, that staying as a self, that following my guru's pointings, that's my guidance system. I don't have to do anything. The guidance is there for. In the last words, the Guruji spoke to me directly. Don't go to thought. Rest as awareness. It's such a simple pointing. Such a simple pointing. This not going to the thought. And resting as awareness. Remaining as the self. This is the meditation that can't begin and can't end. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Mujiki Jai. Santajiki Jai. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Love you too.